Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a couple of times before. These guys do some really great beers in my experience, and this is one that has received a little bit of attention recently, so I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. So for this review then, we are going to go to a little place called Hebdon Bridge, which is kind of in between Leeds and Manchester, and we're having a look at my third beer involving Vocation Brewery. So this one is part of their barrel aged series. It's called Imperial Kirsch, and obviously it's an Imperial Stout coming in at 11% ABV, and it's been aged in cognac barrels, and it's also got some Morello cherries in it, hence the name Imperial Kirsch. So yeah, this one I think should be very nice, and hopefully it's another very good beer from Vocation Brewery. The last two beers that I had involving these guys, the first one was the Love and Hate New England IPA. That's a supermarket craft beer, that one, and you know, for what it is, it's an awesome beer actually. I think that's one of the best supermarket IPAs that you're going to find at the moment. It's really just very damn solid, especially when you're only paying £3.50 a can. It's great. And then I also had the Hang Loose, which was a collaboration with Magic Rock Brewing Company from Huddersfield. That was more of a West Coasty type IPA actually. But this is another beer that you can buy in Tesco stores throughout Scotland, and I guess down into England as well, since the brewery is English. But yeah, this one cost £5 for a can, and when you think that that is a big 11% double mash Imperial Stout, barrel aged as well, that's just pretty crazy, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think this is a pretty damn good value beer, I have to say. So to convert the price for you, £5 is probably about, you know, €6 or so. It will be about 60 Swedish kronor, somewhere in that region, so maybe about $7 for this can actually. So a very good value beer, and hopefully this one lives up to the standard of the other beers that I've had from Vocation so far. I have been hearing from the English beer tubers that the barrel aged series that Vocation have been doing has been putting out some really good stuff over the last little while, and I think the next thing I need to do with Vocation Brewery is try some of their more how should I say, some of their non-supermarket range. I should try some of their, you know, fresh releases and things like that. So we'll see about making that happen either in February or September when I'm back in the motherland of Scotland next. But really curious to see how this one turns out in the meantime. 11% double mash Imperial Stout with Morello cherries aged in cognac barrels from Vocation Brewery in Hebdon Bridge down in England. I think this is going to be awesome. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Vocation Brewery before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly at the moment because I am at home in the motherland of Scotland and trying a few English beers, and we are getting a kind of regular supply of nice English stuff over in Sweden these days, which is great. The English beer scene is thriving at the moment, so that is always a good thing to have. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries and things like that. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Vocation Brewery then, on to my brewery notes. So Vocation Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Hebdon Bridge, which is about halfway between Manchester and Leeds, kind of right in the middle of England almost. But the brewery was founded back in April of 2015 by John Hickling. So he'd worked within IT in the banking sector for a good number of years, and he just homebrewed on the side as a hobby, but he got tired of work and decided that he wanted to run a brewery professionally, and so he went to train at Brew Lab in Sunderland, which is quite a popular place to go and train in brewing actually. But he also worked for a period at Jarrow Brewery. He later bought the equipment from Jarrow Brewery and then founded Blue Monkey Brewery in Ilkeston with his uncle back in 2008, and they successfully grew the brewery over the following years. But they sold Blue Monkey a little bit later, and then he founded Vocation because he felt that he needed a new project. So the new brewery opened in Hebdon Bridge in Yorkshire in 2015, and they started off with a 15-barrel brew plant, and they've grown their fermentation capacity over the last few years. They opened their first tap room in Hebdon Bridge in 2018, and then they opened another in Leeds in 2019. And as of January 2021, when I'm filming this beer for you, these guys have produced around 110 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and they do a whole host of different things. As I said to you earlier, the Love and Hate IPA, that's probably one of the best supermarket IPAs that you're going to find at the moment. It really is, you know, very, very good. I guess not as crazy as some of the kind of fresh releases and things like that they do, but it is really, really damn solid. And then you've got this one as well, which seems to have gone down very, very well in craft beer circles in England. So yeah, it's quite nice to be able to review this one for you here on the channel. And the English guys have been telling me that some of the other barrel-aged releases from Vocation Brewery have been pretty good. I think it was Peter, the Clueless Drinker, who was really particularly enjoying some of these, and he's fairly close to them actually. Peter lives in between, right in the middle of Manchester and Liverpool, if I remember rightly, and of course you've got Adam at Mersey Beers, who's not too far away from these guys either. So hopefully when I do get down to visit them at some stage, I can get a few more of the Vocation things. It would be nice to go and film at the tap room in Hebdon Bridge, but I'm not sure how possible that is going to be. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Vocation Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this beer itself then. So as I said to you earlier, this one is an 11% Imperial Stout. It contains Morello cherries. It's a double mash Imperial Stout as well. And it was aged in cognac barrels. It doesn't say how long it was aged for right enough, but it says on the side here, a sumptuous double mash stout with intense notes of dark chocolate and Morello cherry. Once brewed, this beer was aged using cognac barrels to add layers of complexity and depth to the flavour. So yeah, if I remember rightly, cognac is a distillate that's taken from wine actually, if I remember rightly. I know that Remy at Beer Geek Holland, he's quite into his cognacs from what I've heard. So I need to do, it'd be quite nice to do a wee cognac tasting with Remy at some stage. We'll see about sorting that out. But it does say on the barrel age, it tells you a little bit about the barrel age series here as well. These beers explore the boundaries of barrel aging, complex flavour profiles created in small batches from our brewery in Hebdon Bridge, best enjoyed slowly. So yeah, this one will be a little bit of a sipper actually. But there you can see the little bits that I've just read out to you there. Just quite nice. You can see there is the Vocation Brewery symbol just on the top here. You can see that right on the front of the can as well. But you know, quite sort of classy artwork. This one is a little bit different to the artwork that we had on the Love and Hate can a little while back. But yeah, this one, 440ml can, as you can see. I bought this one from my local Tesco for £5, and the woman actually on the till was quite funny. She took it back when she put it through the scanner and said, "That's no right, that's saying £5 for a can of beer." I was like, "No, it is, it's an Imperial Stout, it's 11%. She was like, "Really?" And I was just like, "Aye." It's like, that's good, you only need one of these, of course. So yeah, she was quite she was quite surprised at that you know, £5 for a beer, but I was just like, yeah, it's a craft beer, it's normal. But yeah, she was quite nice about it. She's like, "Oh, I need to have a wee try of that." So yeah, converting people to craft beer as we go. But yeah, nicely presented can, this one. As I say, the barrel aged series has gone down very, very well with these guys too. I do like the Roman numerals in there as well. 2015 MMXV. So yeah, Roman numerals, always enjoy that. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. 11% ABV. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Nice to be able to review this one for you here on the channel. And I'm not sure exactly when I'll publish this one, but I do have a couple of other stout beers from the supermarket range to take a look at actually. So yeah, let's get this guy out, get on with the tasting. The colour of that is really impressive actually. Yeah, that's pretty good. There's still a wee bit left, but yeah, we'll leave a wee bit in the can just to sit it there, and there we go. Okay, so yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from a big Imperial Stout, this one's poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour. That see, to be honest with you, that is one of the blackest stouts I think I've seen in quite a wee while. The cherries, of course, are going to give it a little bit of a kind of tint, and you could see a little bit of a kind of, you know, just cherry coloured tint like this, a very slight kind of purple thing to it as we poured it out. But that is most definitely one of the blackest stouts I can say I've come across over the last wee while. There was a very thin kind of wispy layer of head on top of it, but now it's just got a nice kind of foamy ring around the edge of the glass, quite dark, you know, quite a nice dark tan head. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, a few tiny little ones going up towards the surface there, but I mean overall it does look pretty nice. I think this beer is pretty much, you know, black as night. It looks very, very good. So yeah, it's it's kind of what you would expect from an Imperial Stout, to be honest with you. I like how it appears, but nothing overly surprising. Definitely one of the blackest stouts I've come across though, and you know, a very, very dark tan on that little bit of head that we've got. But at 11%, especially when it's barrel aged, you're not going to get much head out of this. It does have wheat in it though, which could theoretically mean that the head should retain a little bit more, and maybe that's why it's got a little bit of a foamy layer. I mean, sometimes you get stouts like this that just have absolutely nothing. But yeah, colour of the beer is absolutely fabulous. Remember, the colour of your beer is dependent on two things. One, the type of malts that you use, and two, the length of the boil. Yeah, the length of the boil for a beer like this is probably going to be like 5-6 hours, something like that. The more you boil, the longer you boil the beer, the more the sugars caramelise, the darker your colour gets, and there we go. And this is also a double mash stout as well. We need to remember that. So yeah, it certainly looks the part of an Imperial Stout. Impressed by how dark this beer has, and like I said, it has a wee kind of tint of other things to it. But yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this one. I think this is going to be pretty damn special actually, and I can smell the complexity of it right away. That does smell pretty nice. Yeah, that is good. So straight away with this beer, you can smell the lovely smooth oaky woodiness coming out of this one. That really forms the backbone of the beer. I like how this one, I really like how this one goes together in that sense. Yeah, so lovely big, smooth and slick woody backbone to this one. You can smell a little touch of the vanilla out of this one. You can smell just a wee bit of that kind of cognac-y sort of grapiness in there as well. You can smell that the oaky wood just has a wee bit of a sort of almost, it's a mix of a white and kind of red grapey sort of thing. It's not tart or anything like that, or vinous so much. It's just a nice smooth, almost slightly sweet, grapey quality that you get out of this one. And that is really quite interesting. You can smell a wee bit of the vanilla from the oak as well, but this beer really just smells very, very thick, very slick and thick, if you like, when you go into it. We have to remember as well that there's oats in this, and the oats are going to smoothen that out, and you do get a bit of an impression of the oats from the aroma of these kinds of beer. But yeah, the aroma of this one is absolutely lovely. I really, really like this. But yeah, I mean, straight away on top of that, you start to get some of the nice dark chocolate there. It's got a nice big 70-80% cocoa chocolate sitting on top of it. It has got a wee bit of a, I would say, you know, it's got a little bit of that dry powdery kind of chocolate thing coming out of it, which I think is very, very good. So yeah, I really like that kind of. I like the fact that it's got a nice kind of, the chocolate has a little bit of an oiliness to it. It really does have a little bit of an oiliness to it, but it's also got how would you say? It also has just that little bit of dryness and kind of toasty powderiness to it as well. I think that adds a nice little edge to the beer, to be honest with you. You can smell a little bit of brown sugar to this one, a bit of treacle molasses, and again it's got the big oily character to it, but at the same time it's also a little bit toasted. Yeah, I really like that side of the beer as well. You can smell a little bit of roasty black malt, but like I say, the backbone of this beer is all about the wood. And the more that you smell of this beer, it does develop a little bit of a cakiness. You do get a little bit of that kind of very dark sponge cake, and from what I remember, I think this beer is supposed to be inspired by one of the German cherry cakes, hence the name Imperial Kirsch. I think it's Kirsch, Kirschkake they call it in Kirsch, is it Kirschküche? If I remember the German word rightly. We would say Kake in Swedish, I think they say Küche in German. But yeah, it's got a lovely just kind of dark brown kind of cakey note out of it, which I think is very, very nice. So yeah, I like how this one, I do like how this one goes together in that sense. You get more and more cakiness out of this, and it does get a wee bit more kind of toastier and breadier, if you like, the further that you go into it. So I like how that one goes together, absolutely, in that sense. Yeah, more vanilla coming out of it as well. The thing we haven't mentioned yet is the cherries, and I really think the cherries are just adding a little bit of subtlety to this beer. It's got a really deep kind of cherry character to it, this one, and they're not overly tart. Sometimes cherries can be very, very tart, but in this one I really find them just nice and sort of and juicy, if you like. You can really feel that they're just adding a little bit of depth to the beer, but you get a few other things in there. There's a wee touch of a brighter black currant, a little bit of a blackberry sort of thing in there as well. So there are some really nice kind of fruity there are some nice kind of fruity, juicy aspects to the beer as well, but it feels like the cherry is the one that's kind of sort of being the anchor for the fruity side of the beer, to be honest. So yeah, there's a lot of depth to this beer actually, and it comes across very, very nicely in the aroma too. So definitely take a bit of time to ponder over this aroma before you get stuck into it, but let's have a taste of this now and see how we get on. This one is the Imperial Kirsch, an Imperial Stout at 11% ABV from Vocation Brewery in Hebdon Bridge down in England. Double mash, aged in cognac barrels, and then with a little bit of cherries, Morello cherries added to it. So yeah, this I think will be pretty damn nice. Let's get stuck into this one. Cool to have Vocation Brewery here on the channel once again. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah. Now, I'm going to say straight away, I like that. You know, cherries, I never really eat cherries on their own, but I do quite appreciate the flavour. I've never really been into cake and things like that. I do like a brownie. A brownie every so often, and you know, Swedish kladdkaka and stuff. I do like a bit of chocolate cake, I will say that, yeah, I like a little bit of chocolate cake, but it's not something that I actively seek out. But fruit cakes, and you know, fruit cakes and if they've got a bit of berries in them, yeah, I'll have a go. I will have a wee go at them. But cherries aren't something that I would eat all that often. But you know, trying something like this, I'm like, maybe I should give cherries a little bit more of a chance. This is a lovely, lovely beer actually, and again, when you consider that you pay £5 for this in the supermarket, that's crazy. It just shows you how much the kind of beer scene has moved forward actually. So yeah, that is pretty cool. So thumbs up to Vocation Brewery once again, and if this is how good one of their more kind of highly produced beers is, I guess you could say, then I would be really curious to see one of the more small batch ones actually. I would be really curious to have a go at some of the other ones in this barrel aged series. But yeah, I absolutely like how this goes together. Solid beer. Where to start with this one then? It's really nicely done. It's kind of got everything you'd expect, to be honest with you, and it is just a very, very solid Imperial Stout. This is a nice dessert beer, absolutely, this one. Chocolate and cherry stout, yeah, awesome stuff. But yeah, so the backbone of this beer straight away, you can get that nice smooth, oaky, woody quality. That forms the backbone of the beer. It blankets the middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate. And if you go to the front half of that middle third of your tongue, you can feel a little bit of the vanilla coming out of it, and there's a few of the kind of grapey elements from the cognac sitting in there as well. The cognac almost just sweetens the wood up a little bit and gives it just a wee kind of juicy note. I mean, you know, whiskey barrel aging, Scotch whiskey barrel aging gives you a bit of dryness quite often, and then the American bourbon really gives you a little bit of a kind of smooth brown sugary note to a lot of things. Barrel aging is very interesting because what it usually does is it takes away a little bit of the thickness of the mouthfeel and just infuses the whole beer. It's a really kind of interesting concept, to be honest with you. I maybe need to go back and review a few of the Innocent Gun beers, because they were the big guys in Scotland who always used to do it. I've not had anything from Innocent Gun in quite some time actually, but yeah, the smoothness that you get out of this one is very nice. This beer's got a real slickness to it, and for 11%, the slickness that you get out of this beer is, you know, pretty spot on, I have to say. But yeah, the woodiness that you have out of this, it just adds a nice soft backbone to the beer, a nice soft, smooth and slick backbone. Yeah. Yeah. I really like how that goes together. But on top of that, you get a really nice smooth oatiness out of the beer. It really, on top of the wood, you get the oats just kind of forming the base of the beer as well. So you get that nice thick smooth oaty layer on that middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate. But definitely the woody notes you feel on that front half of the middle third of your tongue. Sorry. You will feel those just kind of sitting up there, and you can feel the wheat is also helping to smooth this beer out. I think it's a little bit more wheaty on the back third of your palate, then it's the oats that come out as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue there, and that's quite nice. There is a wee bit of a kind of roasty black malty bitiness at the back of the palate and the very back third of your tongue, so that's quite nice as well. But then when you move into the middle third of your palate, you can feel more of the chocolate coming out of this one actually, and that starts to give the beer just a little bit of dryness the further that you go into the aftertaste as well. I think the chocolate, it's quite smooth and slick in the beginning, but the beer does dry out a little bit the more that you drink of it, so yeah. But the cognac barrels, I think, really do add an interesting depth to this beer. Absolutely, we need more cognac barrel aging, for sure. I have noticed it has been growing a little bit in popularity, to be honest with you, and you know, long may that continue. Cognac barrel aging is very, very nice. But yeah, I like this one. The cherries in this just have, you know, if you put raspberries in this beer, I think it would almost just be too tart, if that makes sense. But the cherries are adding a nice edge to this one too. But yeah, you can feel in the middle third of your palate as you go further and further into it, it's got a nice little bit of a dry. It has got a nice little bit of a kind of dryness, a sort of powdery, dark, roasty chocolate that just develops there in the middle of your palate. If you go into the very centre of your tongue, there's a nice little bit of a kind of oily brown sugar comes out of this one, which I really, really like. It's got a big, it's got a very, very nice kind of just highly caramelised, treacly sort of thing there, but I think that begins to sit underneath. It sits on top of the oats and in the middle of the palate, but then the kind of dry, powdery, sort of high cocoa chocolate starts to take over the flavour there, to be honest with you. But yeah, it is very, very nice in that sense too. But yeah, I think, to be honest, I think that covers the malty and the you know, the barrel aging, the woody side of the beer quite well, to be honest with you. So on the hoppy side of things, and remember this is a barrel aged beer, so most of the hoppy character will have dropped out of it, but yeah, you do get a little bit of a kind of earthiness on the back corners of the palate, and as you move further forward along the sides of the tongue, yeah, it's got a little bit of smoothness to it, but you can detect one or two little hints of herbal and floral character. I do think this might have an English hop in it and perhaps an American one as well. It does have a wee bit of the herbal quality that you would expect of an English hop, but then yeah, round the front curve of the palate it's a little bit lighter and grassy, and then on the front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll the way out of the beer. Those are the fruits that are extracted from the hops, of course, but when you add fruit into a beer such as cherries, you will get some of that fruity flavour around the front edge of the palate. It usually suppresses a little bit of the green side of the beer, but yeah, you get that straight away in this one. I do like how this goes together. So yeah, on that fruity side of things, then you do get on the front, when you take this beer in, you will get a little bit of sharpness out of those cherries right away, but then they just roll back across that front part of your palate, and you get a wee bit of juiciness at the back of the tongue there, which is kind of quite nice, and you can feel some of that, the sharpness of the cherries on the front kind of curve of your tongue as well, which is good, and that again just adds a little bit of depth to this beer, which I really like. Yeah, it is really nice how that kind of pieces together in this one as well. I like that about this beer for sure. So yeah, the fruity the fruity side of this beer really is, that's what makes it stand out. As I say, I'm not a massive fan of cherries, but you just get the right amount of sharpness out of this, and you do get a wee bit of sharpness on the front part of the tongue and on the back of that front third of your palate too, which is quite interesting. But there's a few other flavours come out of this one, like on the front half of that front third of your tongue there's a wee bit of a blackcurranty oil, a wee bit of a blackcurranty juiciness to it. Then you get a wee bit of a blackberry, more oily quality, and some figgy notes I think come out of this one. But the cherries I think linger in there very nicely. So in that sense, I really like the fruity side of this beer. The cherries are really interesting for me in this. So maybe I need to have a look at a few more kind of cherry stouts and stuff. I have had it was a cherry and rye doppelbock recently. I think that was from Lehe Prulikoda over in Estonia, and that was a really interesting beer for sure. But yeah, this one was pretty damn awesome. Actually, I really enjoyed this. So big thumbs up to Vocation Brewery for this, and this is definitely worth trying, especially when it's only £5. That's crazy. It really is quite crazy for me. But yeah, I think that's enough on the flavour side of things. It's really nice done. Very slick. Very slick and just really nice sipping beer, this one, absolutely. It's stupidly drinkable for 11% as well. Actually, you could sit and just sip away on this, to be honest with you. It covers its alcohol very well. In terms of the mouthfeel then, what would we say about this? Yeah, it's I would say that this is in the kind of middle part of the full-bodied. Like I said, you know, when you barrel age a beer, it does take away a little bit of the thickness of the mouthfeel and gives you a bit more of a kind of slickness and a kind of infused flavour, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's kind of right in the middle of the full-bodied part of the spectrum. Carbonation is very smooth in this one. The mouthfeel overall is very silky, slick, and very smooth. In terms of bitterness, what would we say about this? That's a good point. I never thought about that. I think this beer does develop a little bit of dryness and bitterness the further that you go into the aftertaste. I think it does develop that, to be honest with you. But I think this has got to be about 40 or 50 IBUs. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of the bitterness, and most of that is coming from the malt base. But there's a wee bit around there. There's a wee bit of earthiness there that will contribute to that. In fairness, so I think 40, 50 IBUs. I think 50 is more likely, to be honest with you. But yeah, overall I find this beer to be quite smooth and sweet and slick, to be honest with you. The dryness comes a little bit later. The malt base has a nice kind of sweetness from vanilla, a nice kind of brown sugary note to it, as well as a little bit of smoothness. Then you've just got a wee bit of sharpness and juicy fruity character coming out of it as well. It's got a bit of juiciness to it and just a little bit of tartness there that lets you know, yeah, the cherries are there. The Morello cherries just showing that tart side. But yeah, I think this is I really like this one. I think you do have to like cherries to get into this, but like I say, I'm not the most massive fan of cherries, but this definitely makes me want to think about that a little bit. I think this is one of these beers that if you put raspberries in it instead of cherries, it might not work, but that could be an interesting project for them, is to do the same beer but with like Scottish raspberries or something, because Scottish raspberries are pretty damn tart actually. So yeah, that could be an interesting thing for them to do going forward. But I will have a look and see what other barrel-aged beers they've got, because this certainly is this for a lot of people, when this is available in Tesco's, this will be a nice introduction to what barrel aging can actually be, and all these nice kind of infused flavours. But I suppose Innocent Gun, pretty much I think all of their beer is barrel aged, if I remember rightly. But yeah, this is a really interesting beer, this one, for me, and I've really enjoyed reviewing this for you. So have a go at this one for yourselves and just see what you think. It's nice to have this beer on the channel when it's been getting such such positive comments, and I can see exactly why, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Imperial Kirsch, an 11% double mash Imperial Stout with Morello cherries, aged in cognac barrels as well, from Vocation Brewery in Hebdon Bridge between Leeds and Newcastle, right in the middle of England. Really nice beer, this one, and it does come across. It is a very nice introduction to barrel aging, this one. I think this will be a good gateway Imperial Stout for a lot of people actually. But yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Vocation Brewery. We will no doubt return to these guys at some point fairly soon, and hopefully, as I say, I can get some of the kind of more fresh releases and the more kind of small batch releases from these guys at some stage soon. I'll need to talk to Peter and Adam about that. But in the meantime, this was the Imperial Kirsch. I'm noticing that as I sort of reflect in the aftertaste a little bit, you start to get more of a kind of cakey, that sort of cakey vibe I was talking about from the aroma earlier. You start to get more of that sitting underneath the fruits as well. So this beer does develop a bit of a cakey aftertaste, just take note of that. But yeah, it's a lovely, lovely beer, this one, and I do look forward to more from Vocation Brewery. But thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Vocation Brewery, and have a go at this beer from your local Tesco's if you get the chance. Until the next time, it's Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, Skull, cheers. Make sure you check out Vocation Brewery, and I'll catch you guys on the next review. Cheers.